Hey folks, Josh Neighbors here. It is Arkansas Razorbacks Live, voice of college football. Glad to have you alongside us. A couple of notes of admin first. Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter at JNeighbors97 is where I am at, that's my Instagram, JNeighbors97. I'm at Josh Neighbors _. And also you guys can find the voice of college football, a whole lot going on. And some big news for your boy on a national level. We'll talk about that coming next week. On today's show, interesting question. So it matters about how you kind of look at a schedule, but we're going to break down what month of Arkansas's schedule we think is the easy. Basically, like if you're going to take it in three pieces, which part of it is the easiest, which part is the hardest. However your brain works, I like to go by blocks of 4. It's 12 games, so you do 3 of those, or you can do 4 blocks of 3. But I actually asked some of my friends what they thought, and so there's some a variety of opinion because we know the Arkansas schedule is always all killer and no filler. Make sure you guys like the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. That's the best way to help us. Also, the super chats. We're on the way to 1,000, and that's huge because we can monetize the channel. So please, folks, please like and subscribe. That's the best way to help us grow this thing. All right, so right now I went to the FanDuel Sportsbook, and their over-under for Arkansas's win total this year is 4.5. Under is -170, which means that's pretty decent amount of juice. You got to bet 170 to make 100 on the under. Over 4.5 wins is +138. And I think that, is a good piece of context because we're going to discuss which part of the schedule is going to be easiest and hardest. That would tell you that either A, the team's not good, B, the schedule is hard, or C, both. And I think that'll be an interesting kind of factor in this. Now, the one thing you have to understand is a schedule is a schedule. It looks a certain way when you start off, right? Schedules are an interesting thing to me. My hair's going crazy right now. Schedules are interesting to me. So there's a few things like scheduling and a schedule are two different things. I believe it's bad scheduling practice to do what Arkansas did last year and this year. There is no reason with a conference as big and as strong as the SEC, where the conference's density is its strength, right? The quality of the number of quality teams is the strength. There's no reason to be playing teams like Memphis and Notre Dame, especially at Memphis. This year, there's no reason to be playing a Utah game because with the conference schedule, guess what? Georgia comes right after Utah, and Utah by itself at Rice Eccles is a full meal. When you put Georgia behind it, it compounds the challenge, right? And allows things to slide. We saw last year the Memphis bubble pop combined with that Ole Miss tough, and then the Notre Dame game was just like total railroad. Those things can add up for a team, and it can make them hard to find some good form after that stretch. So I think the scheduling for Arkansas, for me, has been a huge issue. Let's go to the schedule itself. So, because that last piece is a very important piece of context, because I think you could make the case for September being the hardest because of what the combination of Utah and Georgia could do physically and psychologically to this team if it does not go well for Ryan Silverfield in that first month. And that's a very, possible thing. So let's take a look right here at what Arkansas has on their schedule here. So September, North Allen at home. Obviously, we don't think there's too much there. Rice Eccles at night for the Utah game. And then they're in Fayetteville at 11 a.m. And I know, Yurchek's complaining about that, whatever. And then they have a night game against Tulsa, which is like, they're going late, Pac-12 after dark, if you will. Then they're going to go the SEC morning. Then they're going to go with the 7 o'clock night game, family weekend, Tulsa, SEC Network. So kind of this weird hodgepodge of games in September. And if you want to make the case for September being the hardest month of the schedule, it is because that Utah and Georgia game could really, if this, there's no runway here, right? There is North Al, and then you're in the fire against Utah. And look, I know Kyle Whittingham is now at Michigan, but that is a program. They are about, they were about defense, but they play a certain style. You kind of really know what to expect with that team, and then kind of groom the next coach with Moritz Galley. And so they've kind of prepared for this. And also, if you look at Utah football home record, they are one of the best teams at home. Now, the only thing that hurt their home record was the fact that Cam Rising missed a lot of games, in a stretch of time. But since 1988, They are 125-42. They were 2-4 at home in 24. That was when they were injured at quarterback. So talking about full strength Utah here is really kind of what we're talking about, how tough that place is to go and to win. And if you look at Arkansas, not just last year, but like Arkansas's road record is not fantastic as of late. The record period is not fantastic as of late. But let's see, the last Power 5 road win for Arkansas came, let's see, 24-25 was their one. I mean, they won at Auburn that year, if you remember. And then let me see if there's and at Mississippi State as well. So they have not won a road Power 5 game since at Mississippi State. And since then they've had one bite at the apple, and then last year, obviously, they did all their losses last year as well. So it's been difficult for them, playing teams of that quality. And then you get Georgia at home, and we saw last year, I don't think the Utah game could deflate Arkansas the way that the Memphis game did before Notre Dame game, but it could bloody them some before you're playing a physical football team. So I think that's one thing that's my concern. And that's why I think that that could be an issue, is the fact that, look, Tulsa comes next, but like psychologically, when you go play A&M the following week, are you a bit damaged goods? Like, man, we're bad against good teams, right? Is that a concern? So October, this is just a SEC month. Every game is between 2 and 7. It's at A&M, Tennessee at home, at Vandy, and Missouri. And one thing about this schedule that I don't think we mentioned, they have back-to-back home games just one time. The homestand is Georgia and Tulsa. Then it's at A&M, Tennessee, at Vandy, Missouri, at Auburn, South Carolina, at Texas, and LSU. So they are bouncing home road the entire way. Okay. And this month, this is going to be a variety month, right? Because we don't know what all of these outfits are going to look like, right? Vanderbilt is going to be in the post-Diego Pavia era. I think this Missouri team is going to be, they've got good players still, but the problem is their schedule might batter them. And that's the one thing, is these teams are not just who we think they might be right now, right? These teams are living, breathing things that go up and down, right? And so I think that I don't know what these 4 teams will look like. I know that generally speaking, look at these teams last year, right? A&M was, let's see, I think the record was last year, but they would playoff, right? So playoff team, then Tennessee, playoff team. In recent memory, that last year was not their best year, but we knew it would be. Vandy, obviously 10-win team. Missouri, 8-win team. And we know what Missouri's record against Arkansas has been. So now, not to say it's not unattainable, right? We've seen Arkansas last year be competitive in a bunch of tough games consecutively. But the one thing is, start off on the road, they're going to really need to make sure that Tennessee game is a huge one, right? If this thing might go a certain way, like you're at home, you beat a pretty good version of them before. 1914 is pretty fluky. But if Vanderbilt is down, you might be able to get that win and take some momentum to Nashville, where we know the crowd has started to come alive there, but that's still a place where a lot of people like to travel to because it's Nashville, and they might be for the taking this year. And you might be able to parlay that. I mean, that stretch, if you were to ask me, Josh, where is an SEC stretch where Arkansas could get on a run? It'd be Tennessee at Vandy, Missouri. And actually, I do think something psychologically will help Arkansas this year. I think the fact that the Missouri game is coming in the middle, not Black Friday, is good, because it's death taxes in Mizzou on Black Friday right now. And I think just a shakeup of that, it just kind of changes the narrative, right? I mean, the context around that game totally changes, right? That we're not trying to achieve, 6 wins, whatever it is. And sometimes for Arkansas, like last year, the season was basically over at that point in time. I think just having it as part of the schedule can kind of change the narrative when it comes to what that game means. Conversely, as we shift to November, at Auburn, South Carolina, at Texas, LSU, I think that LSU game coming once again on the end of the year changes things. And that should go back to Black Friday. And once again, the Little Rock Stadium thing, we can do it over and over and over again. It should be renovated. The school should help them get better games. To me, as a Missouri student, one thing that never made sense was, why on Black Friday are we all watching an empty Missouri home game and an empty Arkansas home game? Because the kids are all gone. My first game, I was there 5 seasons at Missouri. We played Arkansas at home 3 times. Didn't go to a single game. My first Missouri-Arkansas game was when I was in Arkansas working, because I was finally an adult and could go on Black Friday. Well, if there's nobody there, Missouri should have played the game at Arrowhead, right? A lot of your students are actually in Kansas City, one of the big cities, and also serves a different part of your fan base. And we know that there is a different fan base there in Little Rock. So they should have done Little Rock for a home game for Arkansas, and you could go to Arrowhead for Missouri. We know the crowd will be good. We know it'll be better. At least it's an SEC game, and as opposed to playing, I know it's Pine Bluff, it's great, but I think it was Western Carolina my first year I was in Arkansas. Instead of doing that there in 95-degree heat, we can have a game with actually some circumstance and some substance. Just me, it's not going to happen, but you know what I'm saying. And then that LSU game, I think they have a better shot at it. We know Arkansas can play them tight, but I think the fact that it's going to that last weekend, it feels like it's back where it belongs. Like that A&M LSU thing, I know they wanted that to be a thing. It's two good brands. It just didn't make any sense. Like it really did not make any sense. Like Texas should be playing, it felt like A&M at the end of the year, right? That's what it should be, and that's how I grew up, and I'm glad we're going to get that. So kind of the nature kind of healing itself there as LSU and Arkansas back there. This is the big question though. Like the reason why I think that this 4 in September is my case is because the tone it sets and the way we watched September set a tone last year for worse. We know what Utah, Georgia, and then Tulsa was decent last year, what a stretch like that is capable of doing. For this stretch here at the end, Auburn, South Carolina, at Texas, and LSU. Auburn at Auburn on the road, that's doable. I mean, it's doable. We don't know what version of that team we're going to get. New coach Alex Golesh. With some interest there. South Carolina at home with the America 250 celebration there, Military Day. What is South Carolina going to be at that point of the season? Are we going to be a Shane Beamer-led outfit? Are we? Do we know? At Texas, obviously challenging the LSU. But I do think that the tandem of at Utah and then Georgia at home, I think Arkansas is less likely to split that than at Texas and LSU. And look, I think this Lane Kiffin team's going to be pretty good, but Lane Kiffin strikes me as a coach where weird things like Florida beat them a few years ago, right? Or when he's Florida beat Ole Miss. Like he is the type of coach that can win some big ones, but what happened in that game? Arkansas almost beat them last year. So I think there is some potential there for some wackiness in that game. And I think there's much more chance for wackiness at the end of the year at home against LSU than there is for a at Utah, Georgia stretch. That feels like what we think will happen will probably happen, right? Last year it was the at Memphis is a bad idea. And if that didn't go well, what's going to happen against Notre Dame? Well, guess what? 1-2 punch. So I think because what is going to be happening at Auburn, and once again, we don't know. We really don't know. But South Carolina could be a vulnerable team at that point in time. Depending on health and whatnot and how vibes are, it's such a tough job. But I'm going to go with September, and I'm going to read you all what my buddy Preston, he's going November here. My buddy Preston, give him the shout out Preston Jacks, P Jacks. He said about the month of November that he thought it was going to be toughest because of that end stretch there. So let's see. He's saying what happens before matters, obviously. At Auburn, which is never easy. South Carolina might have an interim head coach. That's a bump. Texas will probably be in the playoff contention. And Lane Kiffin will hang 50 on you. All of those things, potentially true. And I'm not saying September is outright. North Alabama is the weakest game of the schedule. So that's a knock against my September argument. Once again, I'm going off vibes, aesthetic, and what I think a bad 2-game stretch can do to you. That is what we're doing here. If you get smoked in both those games, is the vibe for Tulsa, is the crowd good for Tulsa at night? You're going to have a huge game the week before, and then it's family weekend, and you're playing Tulsa. You know what I mean? It's just a little concerned. Now, this fan base continually raises the bar. Last year, rain delay, A&M game, and 50,000 people were there 3 hours for a bad team. So these boys, they know what they are doing. When it comes to these boys and girls, it comes to the fan base. So I'm going September because of that 2-game stretch. If you just wanted to say, hey, Josh, dummy, it's October. Those are just 4 teams that pretty decent track record. You might be right. But I think because of where the games fall in September and November, Arkansas's chance of having anything good might be decided in those 3 games between Utah, Be competitive against Georgia maybe, and then win convincingly against Tulsa. All right, you're cooking with a little bit of gas there, as you're not feeling terrible. If it just steamrolls and snowballs like it did last year, you're in some problems. October, obviously, just kind of the overall quality, and November could, why it's the hardest or most attainable. Why it's not the hardest to me is I'm not sure about South Carolina and Auburn, and I think LSU is gettable at home. But if those two schools, if South Carolina turns it around and, Golish is pretty decent with Auburn, they've got a lot to play for in that game, it could be tougher because the circumstances for those teams. Or that could be a Shane Beamer coaching for his job game. Once again, you're seeing the context matter a lot. But what I'm saying is I know for a fact that Georgia and Utah plus Tulsa afterwards will be that critical 3-game stretch, right? That is where we're going to know, okay, can Arkansas hang a little bit in a tough environment? Can they come back home and, okay, whatever happened last week, either A, put it behind us, B, let us learn, and then be competitive against Georgia, and then whatever happens in Georgia, can they make sure they get that dub they need to get? Because we saw it not happen last year. So I am fixed. If you want to say what's the most important stretch of the schedule, at Utah, Georgia, Tulsa, and also I'll say I think that tandem of at Utah and Georgia is the toughest too. At Texas, LSU sounds tough, but also at Texas loss, it is. I just don't think at Texas loss is going to hurt the way the LSU game occurs, the way that I think Utah could for the Georgia game, because I think they're a little bit less of a known quantity. All right, folks, let me know what you all think of this. What is your toughest month? What's your most important stretch? Let us know. Leave your comments as well. Like the video. Back on Monday, Austin and I'll get his thoughts on this very question. This is Arkansas Razorbacks Live.